My guest today is Zai Miztiq. She is an author. She's involved in human empowerment and she runs a motivational training company. I'm excited to explore her story, some of the ups and downs that she's had over the past couple of years, and get a sense from her about what freedom actually means. Zai, thank you very much for joining me today. I think interesting starting point. You have had a whirlwind journey over the past couple of years. And now, save me from making a hash of it and not explaining it fully. Could you just go through the journey that you've been on to help the audience understand that, it is possible to overcome challenges that we think are impossible?
Oh, where do I start? Where do I start, really? Okay, I'll just dive in. So I think so basically, hi guys, I'm Zai. I'm from Singapore. We live in Dubai now, and it's been amazing. I like the term freedom to begin with. I think this is the core of why we're having this conversation. So for me, I was recently interviewed as well, and they asked me, what do I love most about my life? I said freedom. I have the freedom of time, freedom of location, and freedom to do what I love, loving what I do. I think this is so important. Basically, how did I get to where I am? Well, I was in Singapore. I started my business before I even graduated. I was called Mystic Henna and Body Art. So I started with henna painting. You know what henna is? This is one of it. And brought henna art to Japan. I chose to live in Japan. It was supposed to be a 2 week stay. Then was very well received, interviewed by Tokyo FM. I was only 20 then. And I was like, wow, this is home. This is cool. So home is where I find purpose and joy. And I'm like, if this is making meaning, then that can be home for me. I think it's something from young, but also I'm blessed because I had the liberty to do what I want to at a young age. And so I brought Henna out to Japan, lived in Japan a bit, and then came back to Singapore. And then I broke my spine. I had an accident. I have 8 screws, 2 metal rods in my back. And healing through learning how to walk again. A year into the accident, I asked myself, do I want to be victim for life or do I want to be victorious? So that's something I share in my model where you move from victim to victor mindset. Yeah, so that's another way of turning pain, stepping up to turn your pain into power, right? So that's one of my keynote topics, actually, stepping up to turn your pain into power, turning your passion into profit. And I think a lot of us, sometimes when we are caught in situations, we feel like, oh my God, this is the end. But actually, it's just the end of that level. Like when you play Tetris, the brick game, right? It's level 1, and then you're gone. And then it's level 2. When you start from 0 again. So there's never like this is the end. It's the end of that level. Now we are in a new stage, a new beginning. So how do you step up your game? So that's why, Philip, I shared with you, life is a womb to tomb journey. It's always stepping up the game. And if I can share one more thing, which I think a lot of people don't speak about, is having to have lost my mom 4 years ago. It was very hard. It's more tough than having broken my spine. I think the pain was, nobody speaks about it. I'm like, damn, why nobody speak about this? But I think this is something that we need to have a whole podcast on, about sanity for caregivers. Having been her caregiver, I'm the last child of 6. We have 6 of our siblings, not married, single. So taking care of a parent becomes your problem, your responsibility, as you put in your ebook, right? So I took it on me, and I'm blessed. I think these are things that opportunities given to us by God for us to care for our parent, to have compassion. But having to lose a parent and to just embrace the grief, the emotions, and then deciding. And I think that's one of the reasons why I moved to Dubai, because staying in Singapore was very hard for me. And all my siblings are married, they have kids and everything. So it's a different thing, right? So I moved to Dubai and I chose to start my life, restart my life after 3 years of, all that grief. And then here I am, self-published. We just launched our book in the Sharjah Book Fair last year in Sharjah in UAE. Gonna put them on Amazon, AE, and gonna do more of my speaking engagements in the GCC. My dream is to go to Africa, and it's very close by to UAE, so it's very strategic. I mean, not just get up and get out and don't know what to do. You have to take the first step first. That's very important. And another thing I always say is miracle happens to movers, because we are not trees. We have to move, and we can move. You just need to make that bold decision and find ways to get out. Yeah. I mean, it helps that I'm single, so it's easier. I mean, if you're with a partner and kids, it's a different level of commitment and responsibility, but it's not impossible. Many people have done it.
Yeah, I love that. Something that you've touched on there. Obviously, two different traumatic experiences.
Yep.
One physical, one emotional, but having the strength and the ability to work through them and say, yeah, this is not it. There's still more for me. This is just a period of time that I'm having to go through, and that there are things on the other side. And I think it's important for people to understand that yes, sometimes it's physical pain, sometimes it's emotional pain. You mentioned mental as well. Yeah, absolutely. That is another one. But we are strong enough to work through it if we permit ourselves. And I think that's one of the things that holds people back, is that they don't believe that they can, and therefore they don't. Before we started recording, we also touched on fear. Fear holds us back in so many different areas of life, but in reality, it's just an image that we create in our head of something that might happen, but we still let it hold us back. And it sounds like, again, there were certain things within your life. It's like, you know what, I have to do it. I have to move forward. I have to make that decision. Writing a book, doing public speaking, all of these things that you may not have done before, but now you've worked through that fear and you've come out the other side. And I guess now you've mentioned that you want to go to Africa.
Yeah.
It's chances are I suspect that there's a level of fear for that for you, but it's like, you know what, I'll probably go and do it anyway, because you've got one life and you want to make things.
That's another thing about so my dream is to visit Africa, to give out my books, to speak to people and empower them and stuff. But this is another thing for those of you listening who have fear to get out there. I am living in Dubai. I think we have more than 1 million populations of African living in Dubai. So what I've done recently is, whenever I go out, I bring some copies of my books. And when I meet someone like a barista, I met 2 baristas. I went for a coffee. I met a barista from Uganda. They were talking about coffee. We had like I was talking to my own nephew and nieces. It was so nice. I mean, I look young. I'm not that young, so I'm like auntie now, Auntie Zai. So I'm talking to them, and I'm like, oh my God, you guys are so cool. Like, what's your dreams and goals? Some guy said he came here because he wanted to get equipment to bring back to roast coffee, and he had a very big dream. They are for coffee farmers. He didn't just come here to be a barista. He said a lot of Italians come to Uganda, buy the coffee beans, bring it back, roast it in Italy, and sell it back to Ugandans at a very high price. I'm like, this is ridiculous. And he said that to me, and he said, so my aim is to be here. I know there's good technology. I'm like, who's your investors? I'm going to introduce you to someone, like, because I love coffee. Coffee is my blood, like. So I'm like, really? So I said to him at the end of the day, I showed them my book, and the guy was like, oh, I need to read your book, Turn Your Passion to Profit. I'm like, I'm going to give this to you because you are going to read and you're going to get inspired. I know you're going to do a lot of wonderful stuff. And he teared. He said, you don't know what this means to me. I'm going to impact a lot of lives through what you just said and what you're sharing with me. And I'm like, why do I even need to go to Africa? Sometimes the things we want to do is actually right where we are. So we can start there as well. For those of you who think like, oh, it's impossible, it's dangerous and stuff. Actually, what we need to do is already within us, near us. Yeah. And we have technology.
We do.
Like, it's going to go out to the world.
Absolutely.
Not just Dubai, not just Singapore, not where you're from. No, it's the world. Yeah.
Yeah. Two great things there. One, yes, it's, I guess, opening our eyes that there may be opportunities really close to us. We just need to be mindful of that and say, okay, I need to consciously open myself up, look for those opportunities, see things in a slightly different way, because they could be opportunities. But I think the other one that's I would almost say is more important is the fact that the barista that you had a conversation with had a vision. They knew
Yeah.
what they were trying to work towards. And a lot of people don't. They don't take the time to go, well, actually, yeah, what do I want? For some people, it's settle down, it's have a family, amazing. Okay. For others, it's experiences. For others, it's location, time freedom, money freedom, all of those sorts of things. But there's a group of people who haven't created any vision for themselves, and therefore they don't know what they're working towards. So to hear that experience for you of the barista saying, you know what, actually, I've had an experience. I know that all of the beans leave Uganda, go to Italy, and come back, and I can actually change that and help build an ecosystem within my country and contribute to the economy and to my community. That's a great vision to have. He's clearly put some thought into that to say, yeah, this is how I can make a difference.
Yeah, I like what you said about that's what you put in your ebook about convenience, right? Our comfort zone. See, I'm good. I just read your book. I remember everything. That's true, because I resonated with everything you wrote. I'm like, this is proof, because our comfort zone. Some of us are too comfortable and we are too complacent. So sometimes there's this thing I was discussing with my niece as well. Are you in the space of contentment where everything is fine, everything's good? Or are you just using that as an excuse to escape the bigger things, the higher purpose you can actually reach out to, go out and do? So that's, again, I think, fear and perception. So how do you define that? Yeah, you need to find.
Yeah, I mean, it all works together, and that's the reasons I, created the chains and I put the levels, because it's like you've got to. If you have a fear, chances are you're going to find the things that are convenient for you, so that you can spend time on those and not worry about the fear, because now you're focused on something else. There's something more important for you to do. It may be another episode on Netflix, and I know on occasion I've fallen into that trap when it's a very good series. But I guess it's recognizing that there are certain things within our lives that we have the power to change if we make the decision to do it. And as we work through the different chains, everything then actually starts to become easier. If we can do away with convenience and we can start making change, then actually what we thought of as something that was fearful may become a little easier, or somebody may open a door for us and an opportunity that actually helps us dispel that fear. And it's working through those situations to say, you know what, I have a vision. I know I need to take steps forward. What is it that I can change in the short term? How is that going to help me? And that's where I take people through those 3 levels of the chains, because and you mentioned this before we started recording, knowledge gap. Knowledge is one of the easiest things to change. You can spend time gaining knowledge, and if you gain that knowledge, then actually that may help you break some of the other chains. Again, fear, perception, and various other things. So yeah, I think it's important for people to say, okay, this is where I am right now, but this isn't where I have to stay if I don't want to.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. Brilliant. I think the awareness, a lot of us are living in maybe denial, or they're just comfortable, like you said. I don't know. But people need, I don't know, what inspired you to move, Philip?
To move to Dubai?
Yeah.
There was a couple of things. So one, my father and my dad had moved over for work. I came to visit him on holiday twice, saw that there was no rain, of which there is quite a lot of in the UK.
Which year was this?
2015.
Okay.
And I was also in a job in the UK that I really wasn't enjoying. So I had very little control. I was doing the commute into and out of London every day. I was sitting in an office. It was actually the 3-month initial probation period working for a tech company. I won't mention the name, but it's a company that years later was very controversial in the press for political reasons. But it was a job and a situation that I wasn't enjoying. So it's like, I need to make a change. How do I make that change? There's potentially an opportunity to move out to the UAE. why not? I have one life. Let's see what happens. So, I packed everything up. I moved over. I was fortunate enough to stay with my dad to start with. But it, again, opened a different set of experiences, a different set of doors, a way of looking at the world, because I had sunshine every day. I had to go and network and create opportunities for myself. And it's like, that was one of the big changes that I made in my life, and I made the decision to. But on the back of that, I've been able to do some amazing things. I met my partner out here in the UAE. Now, if I hadn't have made that move and that change, that would never have happened. So, I now believe, because of the things that I've been through, the injury and the changes that I've made, the universe has a plan for me. I don't necessarily know what that is. I have a vision for myself, and I'll be working towards that. But the path to get there, I know, will be windy and up and down and everything else. But the universe still has a plan for me if I keep taking steps forward.
100%. Nice. Same thing for me. Like just before my accident, this was 2005. I was 25 then. I was running my henna business, very busy in Singapore. We had 2 years in advance bridal henna booking and stuff. So like, celebrity henna artists, like media, it was so good, making money and everything. But there was this emptiness inside me. I was not happy. I was always unwell. I had migraine, gastritis. I have friends, we partied and everything. It was really fun. I traveled when I want to. And then, but there was this, annoying pain in the soul, I call it. Annoying, but I just, it's nothing. So that's why I always say, guys, if we don't take the jam break, God had to pull the brake for me. That's how I broke my spine in the accident.
There'll always be something that sort of, right, okay, this is the time, this is the moment to reassess.
Don't listen to that calling, that annoying. A lot of people I know are going through this. You feel this tension, annoying pain. So I was talking to one guy yesterday, senior director in the place I'm staying. He said, Zai, I have everything. He's in his 40s. He said, I have everything. I'm comfortable. But there is something missing, is it? Like, you have food, all these beautiful ingredients, but when you eat, there's no salt. So I asked him this. I said, what is that salt in your life? I'm like, damn, that's a book,
Yeah.
I'm like, your thing is the salt in your life. And then, because we spoke before, I knew he had some forgiveness issues he needed to work on. He said, I pray, I meditate, but there's still this. I said, you need to forgive someone. I don't know. I met him first time. I was like, I think you need to forgive someone or something. Then he said, how do I forgive when I didn't make that mistake? I said, you need to forgive for holding on to it for too long. You need to forgive yourself because your little kid is suffering because of whatever. I don't know you, but go work on it. And then yesterday he met him. He said, I don't know what is this salt. I said, what is the salt in your life? So I think this is something, again, for the people listening. If you have this annoying, some emptiness, what is that missing piece? What is that? Sometimes some people are just looking for inner peace. Some people need more money. Is it you need more time? Are you looking for a partner, love? But again, relationship is a whole new tricky thing, right? Like, I also met my partner here. Dubai is a melting pot to find love. I don't know, but you have to be very careful here as well. I met my partner here, and then I'm like, is it I'm looking for love? But when you actually think it is that, there's also, you need to work on your inner being. It's you seeking your own true love, because with or without the partner, is it? I only said this recently because I learned this. Well, life is about learning, right? You learn, heal, and grow. Do I love you for you, or do I love you for me?
Yeah, interesting.
Scary. I realized this 3 months before my mom passed, because it was so hard for me to let go. And I knew she was going to go. But of course, because of the attachment and everything, and it's like I raised a child and I have to see my princess die. It's so unfair, it was very hard. So at the last 3 months, I was the motivator. No one could motivate me. Like, my friends didn't know what to say to me. Like, what do we say to a motivator, And I said, and then I also realized what people need is presence, which is missing. Presence is the greatest present, right? So when I was losing my mom that 3 months, it was very hard. I was like, how can you do this to me? Like, this is so unfair. Sort of blame and anger and everything going on. And I said, do I love you for you, or am I afraid of losing her because of me now? It's shit. I'm like, God, have I been loving my mom wrongly all this while? Where is the sincerity? Is that unconditional love, or was that conditional? So this is a lot. Okay, this is another topic altogether, but this is something for us to understand, because then we are not, if we are exercising, I need to love you because of me, there's no freedom in that. Then I become needy, I become clingy, I become controlling. A lot of people, you want to have power. It's not free.
Yeah. Well, it's holding you back from being
Oh,
free, but it's
yeah,
also holding them back
yeah,
potentially from
yeah,
the
yeah.
experiences and the life that they want to have.
So it's become very transactional, conditional. So this is another level of healing that we all need to work on. That's why when I started out, you started as a motivation, positivity, and everything. But I say it's beyond that. We need to work on healing transformation inside out. Because as long as we don't work inside out, we'll never have the awareness. We will never find a need to like work with coaches like yourself, myself. We will never find a need to understand that there is a serious problem. Oh my God, I need help. And also I met some psychologists and psychotherapists. I was speaking to some guy from Arizona Trauma Institute, and I attended one of the webinar, and they were talking amongst the counselors and psychotherapists, and they kept saying we've been doing it wrong, and I'm like, huh? This is interesting. Why am I being put in this room? Because I intend to pursue my degree in psychology, because I want to introduce faith-based psychology. Because I went to a Methodist school. I read the Bible for 5 years, attended chapel and everything. Like, I love Mother Mary. I believe in Jesus as well. He's in the Quran. Mother Mary is in the Quran. And I believe that for healing to really happen is we need faith-based psychology. So when I was introduced to attend, I attended the webinar by an invitation from a friend from Singapore, and I'm like, we've been doing it wrong. We need to focus on getting people to stabilize and getting them to see, move forward. Where do you want to go? So I quickly write to my friend, and I couldn't wait. I'm like, so what have you guys been focusing on if not this? Because in my last 10 years of this training and coaching business, that's what we do, right? We get you stabilized, get you to where you are, to point A to point B. They said, no, we always focus. Psychology is about focusing on the pain, to think about it. How did that happen? Da, 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 da. I'm like, are you serious? And after that, the lecturer on the webinar said, well, we are still teaching this in the schools. And I'm like, oh my God, we have a lot of work to do, Philip. So and even recently, like I had a client who went to been counseling, 20 years of counseling, only 3 sessions of coaching. And he said, your method is great. Like, coaching is what the world need, because this is helping me see my strengths instead of focusing on the pain, and there's no solution.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah, people need.
it's really interesting to hear you say that, because people have different perspectives on pain, and it's like you mentioned it already. Do you let it hold you back and you become a victim, or do you use it to move to a point of being
Yeah,
victorious? Psychologists, I guess, help you try and understand the pain to work through it to move forward. Other schools of thought are like, who gives a crap? It's in the past. It's pain. Just use it. You don't necessarily need to understand it. Just know that it's there and it's part of who you are. You can still
yeah,
move forward and take steps. The only time it becomes an issue is if you let it become an issue. You still
yeah,
have that power to decide and to choose. So
yeah.
psychology for me is an interesting one. I've had members of the family and friends who have studied it. And my grandfather took a very different view on it, and he was like, yeah, it's a waste of time. But again, it's everybody has a different perspective of what it is and what it means. Psychology for
Mm,
me, in business and in sales and understanding how people think and that side of things, absolutely can get that. The pain side and trying to understand pain and where it comes from and what it's
yeah.
doing, it's like
What's the
yes,
point?
yes, to an extent,
Yeah.
but still it's like, do you need to fully resolve that to
Mm.
move forward?
Actually, I want to say something about that, because I believe people will be watching it. To be fair to those watching, it's important to maybe understand the source of the pain. It's important to understand the root cause of the problem. Because until you don't do that, every time something happens, you will get triggered. And that is another holding back factor. So, it's good to know your pain, get past your past by understanding the root cause of the problem, because there's so many people we need to forgive. Like for me, wounds of abandonment, wounds of rejection. When my dad left, when I was 1 year old, I always blamed myself. Very personal story, but it's truth. I want people to know because this is so important. I always blamed myself, like, oh, maybe he didn't love me, that's why he left. And I took it upon myself to be the main caregiver for my mom because I felt responsible. Her husband left her because of me, so I had to be there for her. So probably that's why I was the caregiver. So was it because I purely sincerely wanted to be there for her, or was it because I had all this blame and heavy responsibility put on myself, guilt, shame, fear, implanted in a 1-year-old girl growing up? And then, I have so much to resolve. And because of that, of course, I have my issues, daddy issues. I hated men, right? And that made me fear into going to relationships. And that's why it took me so long. But it's a process and I'm grateful for it. But I wish I didn't have to go through all of that. So I have friends now who, you know what I mean? One leads to another, leads to another. And imagine if I didn't understand this and if I had gotten married, say, 10 years ago, what kind of a relationship will I have with my partner? What kind of a relationship will I have if I have a son? I am going to treat him so badly. I will be so hard on him. It's not fair. So I think this is the vicious cycle because I have my third book going to be Awakening Parents. So resilient, confident parents raise confident, compassionate kids. So I want to end this vicious cycle of generational curse because, like you said about programming earlier, we are being taught all these ideas. Or even now, I have fear. What if my partner cheats on me? What if he does this? What if? But he's so nice. He's so kind. He's so generous. Like, why do I even have this idea? Because it's something that is built in. It's like a built-in chip. It's so hard to get it out. But I'm like, I need to choose trust. I need to live my life. I don't see anything bad. Why am I mental images? Why am I planting these images in my head? Because I not only made up, I don't know if I made up the story. My daddy didn't love me when I was one. That's why he left. I don't think it's me. Why would it be me? I didn't do anything. It could have been situation or it was his destiny to leave, right? Like how we all live our countries. So but our actions also will affect the rest around us. So we need to be very mindful of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to go back there and I guess clarify a couple of things as well. Absolutely, I agree with everything you've just said there. When I mentioned not necessarily needing to work through the pain, I think it's a case of you don't necessarily need to try and resolve it before you take steps. The steps themselves will help you resolve it, but if you focus so much on that pain, you potentially miss those opportunities. You miss the chance to take steps forward and work through the pain because all of your focus is on a negative rather than
100%.
saying it is a negative. Actually, okay, you've shared some personal things there. You've worked through that and it's changed your perspective on it. And it's like, okay, well, I was 1 year old. It shouldn't be about me. There was something for him that actually, caused that situation.
Yeah. This is the thing. I like what you said because as much as we want to focus on healing, life goes on. You need to go through the journey. You need to get out of that comfort zone because I can be fearful of this forever and not be in a relationship. I said this whole time that I'm in this relationship is helping me heal, learn, and grow. Such a beautiful platform. Such a beautiful journey, this chapter. I said, if this is not the person I marry, at least I know I am unlocking and unpacking and learning so much and healing. So it is upon me to heal and to work on me. It's our personal responsibility. And I think a lot of people don't do this, you don't take personal responsibility. It's so convenient to blame situation, your bosses, your work, your family, your mother. No, it's you. You are alive and you have your passport and like do your stuff, like live life. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's that mentality shift that we all need to think about making. It's how we say, yes, there may be things that I can't control, but there are also a
Yeah.
lot of things I can
Yeah.
control. What I
Yes.
think in certain situations. Funny story, okay? And
Yeah.
I've written this. I moved to Dubai, and I used to hate sand, okay? Because
Sun.
sand on the beach,
And
okay?
oh,
Because it would get into my clothes, it would stick to me, it would get into the bottom of a bag, and then I was like, hang on a minute. But I really
welcome to
enjoy paddleboarding and scuba diving, and therefore
yeah.
sand is a natural part of those things. So if I don't change my perspective and move forwards, I'm always going to be
Miss out on
reluctant
the
to do those things, and I'm going to be frustrated at being in those situations. And I had to make that change. It's like there are certain things within our life that yes, we can control. I controlled my perspective of sand, and actually now it's fine. I can get over it. Yes, there may be stuff in the bottom of a bag, but I can tip it out and I can reuse the bag, and it's all fine. And okay, that's a silly example, but it's still a case of I had the
true.
ability to control that. It wasn't somebody else who was, dictating to me certain things. And it's
Of
important
course.
for us in our lives to identify which are the things that we have no control over, like the amount of traffic on the road and there being an accident. Can't control that. Okay.
Yeah,
I
of
just have
course.
to accept it. But there are other
Uh,
things that we can control, and we need to take control of those.
wrote about your alcohol in the party and what is that? Share about that. Yeah.
Well, so I used to drink a lot growing up. Obviously, Dubai is well known for its brunch culture. So I used to go to brunches a lot of the time. I'd do the all you can eat and all you can drink. I'd carry on and go into the early hours. And as I got older, the hangover the next day would actually end up being 2 days, and I'd feel horrible and
Yeah.
unable to do anything. And I got to that point, it's like it's not helping. It's effectively putting myself in a position where I'm wasting time because I then don't do anything for those 2 days afterwards. So I made the decision to give up. That's something that I can control. Okay, yes, there are people and friends who are like, Phil, what are you doing? Why are you not drinking? It's like, no, because it's not serving me. It's not helping me. Don't get me
Tell them
wrong.
it's
I'll still go to brunch and I'll eat like silly amounts because I love food. And that's another thing I need to work through and cut out the desserts. But, I will turn down alcohol now. And that's just now part of who I am because I made that decision to change.
It's a choice. I think choice is powerful. When you know you have the choice and you're not compelled and there's no fear, oh my God, it's next level. Next level.
Yeah, it's just getting to that point and feeling confident in yourself that actually it doesn't matter the response that you get from people. If you get a super negative response, then perhaps they're not the right people to be around, which in itself is another topic and conversation.
Sometimes it's our ego, sometimes it's feedback, sometimes it's criticism you don't need. And maybe most times it's toxic people like, okay, bye. But that's the beauty of life, right? Like you can delete and block people easily. But there's also I think there's another fine line. Like a lot of times we don't communicate enough. I think our society lack conflict management. Communication, having tough conversations is easier. Maybe we always say, it's better if we leave, but it's not. It's just an easy way out. And people don't sit down and step on their ego and say, I need to speak about this. This is disturbing me. It's hurting me. And I feel like my little child, my inner child is being hurt and I need to resolve this. So it has to be two ways, because if you say this to just anybody, not everyone will understand this language even. Like I need to address my inner child. Like, what are you talking about? So these are things I guess people are becoming more aware of, God, I hope now. And having that soundboard to be kind and compassionate to each other, for each other. That's just another thing, right? I always say your partner is not your rehabilitation center. So that's why you need to go out and get your own coaching and help to work on yourself,
Yeah.
right? Because our partners are not our rehab center, and neither are we. A lot of people stay in a relationship where we think, oh, I need to support, and I'm so exhausted, I'm so burnt out. You are not a rehab center. Go pay for a coach, go work with a therapist. I think this is another thing that a lot of people need to work on, because you have to try, but at the same time, you need to have boundaries and that moral support. This is, of course, presence. Like I said, is the greatest presence, and being heard and being understood. And as much as we expect that from outside, are we listening to ourselves? I talk
Yeah.
about art of in my second book, ART. Do you appreciate yourself? Do you respect yourself? Do you trust yourself? We want people to appreciate us and respect us. But what are we doing to ourselves? Well,
Yeah.
why is it easy to help someone? Okay, now $100 now, take this, go do this for your child or something. But for me, it was for the longest time, still struggling to, if I see a shoe and I want to buy it, I'm like, oh, I have 4 shoes, it's enough. I can think about myself. I think 100 times before I shop. I'm the rare woman. I don't like shopping, but I pay for experiences. I travel. I've been to 35 countries. I indulge in coffee and good desserts. Like, this is my therapy. But like, yeah, I feel like, oh, I don't need this. Like, why is it that we appreciate and we do things for people, but why are we shortchanging ourselves? I think this is another thing where people really need to work on. We all need to work on a lot. I'm not just talking, like, we're talking CEOs, directors, and all. But again, it's all back to that childhood thing.
Yeah. I think, yeah, a key point there. If we don't help ourselves first, we can't actually support others. And there's that great analogy.
Yeah.
Airplanes,
Yeah.
oxygen masks, they tell you to put yours on first so that you can help others. And if you don't take the time and put the effort in to either resolving things, understanding what you really want, how you want to show up in the world, what makes the most sense for you, it becomes harder to then support other people.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate you joining me for this session. Are there any final comments that you would like to make? How can people find out more about your book? And I say books because you've written multiple now. You know, the work that you do within this space.
You can find me Zai Miztiq, ZAIMIZTIQ on all of the social media platforms. Almost gonna start a TikTok soon, and LinkedIn as well. Or stepupjourney.com. That's where all my works are on. Yep. Thank you for having me.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Zai.
Thank you.